CIET NCERT presents AudioBook Exploring Society, India and Beyond. Textbook of Social Science for Grade 8.
Page 61, Chapter 3, The Rise of the Marathas. Among the merchants, the hat wearers like the Portuguese, the English, the Dutch, the French, and the Danes also conduct trade. But they are not like other merchants. They are fully intent on entering this land, increasing their territory, and propagating their religion. They are obstinate people, and navy and gunpowder are their chief weapons. Their traffic should be controlled. They shouldn't be allowed to build strong buildings. This is a quote by Ramachandra Pant Amatya, Adanyapatra, in 1715. In the middle of the page, two images are given. This is figure 3.1 and it is labeled Raigad Fort, Maharashtra, with the grand entrance to the palace where Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj was crowned in 1674, marking the formal beginning of the Maratha Empire. The big questions. 1. Who were the Marathas? How did they manage to become the largest pan-Indian power before the British took over? 2. What were some of the features of their governance? And 3. What impact did the Maratha Empire leave in Indian history? On the right-hand side, at the bottom of the page, a QR code is given. This will give you more information on the subject. Page 62. At the top of the page, a timeline is given from the year 1630 to the year 1720, and this is a timeline from the birth of Shivaji to his achievements, the establishment of the Maratha Navy, and the death of Shivaji Maharaj. In 1630, Shivaji Maharaj was born. In 1646, the beginning of Shivaji's rule took place. In 1657, the Maratha Navy was founded. In 1666, imprisonment at and escape from Agra took place. In 1674, Chhatrapati Shivaji's coronation at Raigad took place. In 1677, Dakshina Digvijay, or the conquest of the south, took place. In 1680, death of Shivaji took place. And between 1682 and 1707, the Mughal Maratha Wars happened. This is figure 3.2. Who are the Marathas? The Marathas are a group of people native to the Deccan Plateau, more specifically present-day Maharashtra. They are identified with the language they speak, Marathi, which has had a rich and continuous literary history since the 12th century. The word literary history has been highlighted here, and it means the historical development of writings in prose or poetry in a particular language. In this chapter, we will see them rise as a powerful political entity that will alter the course of India's history. During the 13th century, most of Maharashtra was ruled by the Yadava dynasty, with Devagiri, present-day Daulatabad, as its capital. In the early 14th century, the Yadava dynasty was overcome by the Khilji Sultanate from Delhi. At the bottom of the page, two pictures are given. They are figure 3.3 and 3.4. Figure 3.3 is a picture of Sant Ramdas, and figure 3.4 is a postal stamp showing Sant Tukaram. Page 63. At the top of the page, a timeline is given that continues from 1750 until the year 1840. In 1754, the beginning of Maratha control over Delhi happened. In 1761, the Battle of Panipat took place and the Marathas were defeated. Between 1775 and 1782, the first Anglo-Maratha War was fought and the Marathas won. In 1818, Third Anglo-Maratha War took place, and that marked the end of Maratha power. Amidst such political changes, the cultural traditions continued, particularly those related to bhakti, devotion to the divine or a particular deity, between the 7th and the 17th centuries. For spiritual upliftment, saints and seekers from several parts of India preferred the path of bhakti to merely external ritualism. These saints, coming from diverse sections of society, composed devotional songs and poetry in the languages of the masses, which allowed their messages to travel far and wide. Let's explore. Have you heard the term bhakti? What does it mean to you? Choose a bhakti saint from any part of India and learn about their life, their teachings, and the messages they shared. You can also find one of their poems or bhajans and share it with your classmates. Page 64. They helped translate important texts like the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita into Marathi, making their philosophy accessible to the people. Some also focused on social organization and political awareness, similar to the Sikh gurus. As a result, the society acquired a solid cultural foundation, which later helped the Marathas to organize themselves into a political power. By the 17th century, some Maratha chiefs made early attempts at establishing sovereignty, but they proved unsuccessful until Shivaji rose to power and brought the Marathas together. But who was Shivaji? Foundation of Maratha power and the rise of Shivaji. In 1630, Shivaji was born in the Bhosle clan to Shahji and Jijabai. At the time, Shahji served the Deccan Sultanates and he was often away from his family. Meanwhile, in his Jagir at Pune, Shivaji grew up under the watchful eyes of Jijabai and some trusted officials, receiving values and a good education. At this time, the Pune region was deeply affected by constant infighting between the Deccan sultans, whom the Marathas served, which caused much hardship for the common people. At the right-hand side, a picture is given. This is figure 3.5, and it is a painting of Shivaji made in the 1680s. British Museum. The word Jagir is highlighted here, and it means a piece of land given by a king or a ruler to someone, usually a noble or soldier, as a reward for their service. The person who got the Jagir could collect taxes from the land and use the money to take care of their needs or help the king when needed. When he was just 16, Shivaji launched military campaigns, first consolidating his hold over the Pune region by capturing neglected and unoccupied forts and strengthening their defenses. His vision of a sovereign kingdom or Swarajya grew over the years, extending to political, economic, and cultural aspects, which we will explore later in this chapter. Page 65. At the top of the page, a picture is given. This is figure 3.6, and it is labeled as the Sindhu-Durg fort near the Maharashtra-Goa border, and it is one of the several naval fortifications built by the Marathas. Shivaji's kingdom soon expanded to India's west coast, and to secure access to the resources of coastal regions, he felt the need to establish a navy. This was a truly revolutionary step at the time. By comparison, the Bijapur Sultanate, ruled by the Adil Shahi dynasty, maintained merchant ships but did not possess a full-time naval force which could protect the coast. Even the Mughal Empire's use of a navy was very limited. Thus, the Maratha Navy was born, whose exploits became legendary. To protect his people from powerful enemies, Shivaji had recourse to the tactic of guerrilla warfare, which uses small groups of people in a focused way with speed, surprise, and knowledge of the terrain to defeat bigger armies. His successes soon invited the wrath of the Bijapur Sultanate, which sent the veteran general Afzal Khan to confront him. Shivaji and his advisors managed to convince Afzal Khan to meet him for a one-on-one meeting at the foot of the Pratapgarh fort amid thick forests. There, Shivaji killed Afzal Khan, and the Marathas, hidden in the mountains, routed the Khan's army with guerrilla attacks. Think about it. If you could time travel and meet Shivaji, what three questions would you ask him and why? Page 66. Don't miss out. The Vagh Nakh is a small weapon shaped like a tiger's claw which Shivaji used to kill Afzal Khan in close combat. Along with this text, on the right-hand side on the top of the page, a picture is given. This is figure 3.7 and it is labeled the Vagh Nakh or the tiger's claw. Let's explore. Try to find out more about guerrilla warfare. Which other countries in the world adopted this method? What geographical advantages did they utilize for this? Discuss your findings in groups. Soon afterwards, the Mughal nobleman Shaista Khan invaded Shivaji's territories with a big army for 3 years. Finally, with only a few soldiers, Shivaji raided Shaista Khan's camp at night. The Khan barely escaped from the raid, losing a few fingers, and promptly left Maharashtra. This daring raid resembles the modern-day surgical strike. The phrase surgical strike is highlighted here, and it means a military attack intended to damage only a specific target with no or minimal damage to other people or infrastructure. As a retaliatory action for the 3-year-long wave of attacks, Shivaji sacked Surat, a wealthy port city of the Mughal Empire in present-day Gujarat. There, he obtained enormous treasure worth almost 1 crore of rupees, an extremely large sum for that time. However, he was careful not to attack religious places and even spared the house of Mohandas Parikh, a charitable man. He sacked Surat again after a few years. These events became so famous that they appeared in the London Gazette, an English newspaper of the time, which conveyed how Shivaji wrote to all European diplomatic agents in Surat, demanding immediate presents of money, failing which he would return and ruin that city. The sacking of Surat was a great insult to the might and prestige of the Mughal Empire. Therefore, Aurangzeb sent Jai Singh, a distinguished Rajput general, to defeat Shivaji. Against him, Shivaji had to concede defeat at Purandar Fort, near Pune, and enter into a treaty. He had to give up a sizable part of his kingdom, and his son Sambhaji had to enter Mughal service. Page 67. Shivaji was persuaded by Jai Singh to visit the Mughal court at Agra, where he was made to stand before Aurangzeb and a Mughal general whom he had defeated earlier. Incensed at this insult, Shivaji stormed out of the court, following which Aurangzeb put him under house arrest. To escape this, Shivaji devised a strategy. He started distributing gifts to holy men and Mughal generals. The gifts often contained fruits and sweets packed in big baskets. The guards initially checked them, but soon stopped doing so. Expecting this, Shivaji and his son Sambhaji hid themselves in the baskets and made their escape. Aurangzeb could never capture Shivaji again. In the middle of the page, a picture is given. This is figure 3.8 and it is labeled A Court Scene with Shivaji on his throne receiving visitors. And this is a panel in the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Park, Mumbai. A few years later, in 1674, Shivaji was coronated with full Vedic rites at the strong mountain fortress of Raigad. His formal title after the coronation was Shri Raja Shiva Chhatrapati, and like some past rulers, he started his own era, the Rajabhisheka Shaka. After this, Shivaji embarked upon a conquest of the south, also referred to as the Dakshina Digvijaya, which included the important and then ill-defended region of present-day northern Tamil Nadu and parts of Karnataka. Observe map in figure 3.9. This southern extension later gave the Marathas great strategic depth against the Mughal invasion. Page 68. Don't miss out. While in the south, Shivaji forbade the Dutch from trading slaves. At the time, most Europeans were capturing and selling Indians as slaves and encountered no opposition from Indian powers until Shivaji intervened. His stance on this abuse showed his deep concern for his subjects. Under this, a map is given. This is figure 3.9 and this is labeled as Shivaji's kingdom about 1680. Ekoji's role is explained later in the chapter. This map has various cities like Mumbai, Pune, Raigad, Pratapgarh, Dabhol, Rajapur, Kolhapur, Vijayadurg, Sindhudurg, Goa, Vengurla, Malvan, etc. These are territories under Shivaji Maharaj, territories under Ekoji, territories under foreign power, hill forts, coastal forts, land forts, cities, ports, and river. Page 69. A fever claimed Shivaji's life when he was 50. He was a master strategist and a true visionary, and within his lifetime, his exploits had become legendary across India and beyond. The Europeans compared him with ancient generals like Alexander, and the Bundela prince Chhatrasal was so inspired by Shivaji's struggle against the Mughals that he managed to create an independent kingdom of Bundelkhand divided between present-day Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh. The famous Hindi poet Bhushan specifically came to Maharashtra to meet Shivaji and composed poems in his praise, some of which remain famous to this day. Let us explore. Pick an event from Shivaji's life and with your classmates, stage it as a play. The Marathas after Shivaji. Shivaji had two sons, Sambhaji and Rajaram. After Shivaji's death, Sambhaji became the Chhatrapati. The Marathas were then the only obstacle to total Mughal control of the Deccan. Aurangzeb invaded the Deccan and conquered the Bijapur or Adil Shahi and Golconda or Qutub Shahi sultanates. He then captured Sambhaji and after torturing him brutally, executed him. After this, he captured Raigad, the Maratha capital. After Sambhaji, Rajaram became the Chhatrapati and fled to Jinji in present-day Tamil Nadu. The Mughal-Maratha conflict thus spread to South India. The Marathas staunchly defended their fortresses and often had the upper hand over the Mughals in battles and skirmishes. Aurangzeb was thus unable to leave the Deccan and died without having succeeded in subduing the Marathas, who emerged as a strong contender to the Mughals. No longer on the defensive, the Marathas, led by Tarabai, Rajaram's queen, made large-scale inroads into Mughal territories eventually conquering large parts of India. During this rapid expansion, the Marathas themselves underwent a structural transformation. The centralized state from Shivaji's time gave way to a more decentralized structure, still nominally centered around the Chhatrapati, but with the chiefs wielding more power. Page 70. On top of the page, in the left corner, a picture is given. This is figure 3.10 and it is labeled Chhatrapati Shahu Maharaj, Sambhaji's son, seated right and sporting in falcon in council with Nana Sahib Peshwa. In particular, the Peshwa, a Persian term for prime minister, wielded great influence, even over the Chhatrapati himself. In particular, Peshwa Bajirao I and his son Nana Sahib Peshwa were instrumental in the pan-Indian expansion of the Marathas. The Marathas brought large parts of India, observe figure 3.11, under their control and generally ruled them well. But with the regional chiefs acquiring more power and autonomy, this also resulted in occasional indiscipline and abuse, in stark contrast with Shivaji's values. For instance, the Marathas' 10-year campaign in Bengal inflicted much cruelty and devastation on the common people. In their northward expansion, the Marathas briefly controlled the areas of Lahore, Attock, and even Peshawar in modern-day Pakistan. They fought with the Afghans and despite suffering a disastrous defeat at Panipat in 1761, they quickly recovered during the time of Peshwa Madhavrao I. Under the leadership of Mahatji Shinde, also known as Mahatji Scindia, they went on to recapture Delhi in 1771, which remained under their control till the British captured it 3 decades later. In the latter half of the 18th century, the chief rivals of the British in India were the Marathas. 3 Anglo-Maratha wars, as they are called, were fought between 1775 and 1818. Owing to the Marathas' increased internal disunity and the superior organizational and technological abilities of the British, they succeeded in ending the Maratha power. In effect, the British took India from the Marathas more than from the Mughals or any other power. Page 71. This page has a picture of a map of the Maratha Empire. This is figure 3.11 and it is labeled as the extent of Maratha Empire in 1759. In this map, we see the Maratha Empire including their tributary states and the city ruled by Marathas and their allies, and we also are able to study the cities under other rulers such as other Indian rulers, British, French and Portuguese rulers, and the river. Page 72. Don't miss out. Did you know that Nana Phadnavis, a powerful official under the Peshwas, is credited with organizing the first pan-Indian anti-British alliance? He even united with old adversaries like Hyder Ali of Mysore and the Nizam of Hyderabad in this endeavor. In the middle of the page, a picture is given. This is figure 3.12 and it is labeled as a mural of a British officer surrendering before Nana Phadnavis and Mahatji Shinde after the First Anglo-Maratha War. Maratha administration, civilian administration. Shivaji instituted a relatively centralized administration for his kingdom. He abolished the hereditary posts generally practiced under the sultans or the Mughals and land assignments and paid a salary to every government official out of the state treasury, periodically transferred as well, ensuring that they would not have enough power to dictate terms to the king. Shivaji also gave pensions to widows of soldiers who died in battles, even offering military posts to their sons, thus demonstrating his care for the soldiers and their families. At the bottom of the page, in the left hand corner, a picture is given. This is figure 3.13 and it is labeled as Shivaji minted gold and copper coins in his own name, signifying his sovereignty. The use of Devanagari script was also an assertion of his cultural identity. Page 73. Think about it. Shivaji issued strict instructions to his officials not to mistreat the subjects or to forcefully grab even a blade of grass from them. In one of the letters issued to his officials, Shivaji says, quote, "Wood from big trees like teak is required for the navy. If needed, secure permission for cutting the trees from the forest and then proceed. Other trees like the mango and jackfruit are also useful, but do not touch them, because such trees may take many years to mature, and the people look after them like their children. If you cut them, will their sorrow ever end? If you accomplish something by oppressing others, it perishes soon, along with the oppressor. There is harm in the absence of such trees as well. Therefore, do not use force in any circumstances." Unquote. Based on Shivaji's letter, what can you tell about his values as a ruler? Shivaji also had an Ashtapradhana Mandala, or a council of 8 ministers, figure 3.14, to assist him with administration. At the bottom of the page, a picture is given. This is figure 3.14. This is a representation of his council of his 8 ministers. At the center, a bubble says Chhatrapati, the sovereign king, and surrounding it are 8 different bubbles, each one of which is differently labeled. So the first one is called Pradhan, or the Prime Minister. The second is called Sachiv, or the Land Revenue Minister. The third is Nyayadhish, or the Chief Justice. The fourth is Pandit Rao, or the Head of Religious Affairs. The fifth is Senapati, or the Commander-in-Chief. The sixth is Sumant, or the Minister for Foreign Affairs. The seventh is Mantri, which is also the Intelligence Minister. And the last, the eighth one, is Amatya, or the Finance Minister. This is figure 3.14, page 73. Page 74. The Marathas often levied taxes called Chauth, 25%, and Sardesh Mukhi, an additional 10% to Chauth, from provinces that were not directly under them, including places in the Deccan and North India. In return, the Marathas protected those provinces and did not intervene in their internal administration. The Mughals also approved of this arrangement through various treaties, and over time, some of these provinces became a part of the Maratha Empire. Don't miss out. In the 18th century, the Marathas often adopted the Mughal style of coinage owing to its popularity, but added their own cultural symbols to it. For instance, this rare Maratha coin, known as the Ganapati Pantapradhana rupee, minted in the early 19th century by the Patvardhans, or the generals under the Peshwa, features inscriptions in 2 scripts, Devanagari and Persian. One side is an invocation to Ganapati, or Lord Ganesha, while the other declares loyalty to the Peshwa, often referred to as Pantapradhan in Marathi. In the same text box, an image is given. This is figure 3.5, and this is an image of these coins from both sides. Military administration. The Maratha armed forces were divided into three parts: infantry, cavalry, and navy. The cavalry was made up of two types of soldiers: the bargees, whose horses and equipment were paid for by the state, and the shiledars, whose horses and equipment were paid for by the soldiers themselves. In the 18th century, the Marathas also noticed the superiority of European style disciplined troops and artillery, and they tried to raise and recruit such troops. In particular, Mahatji Shinde had a large European style army. Swords and lances were preferred weapons of the Marathas, figure 3.16. However, they also used guns in sizable numbers. Rockets were used in military campaigns from the days of Shivaji himself, and by 1770, metal tube rockets were also being used. Page 75. At the top of the page, in the right hand corner, a picture is given. This is figure 3.16 and it is labeled Some of the Weapons Used by the Marathas. Within the image also there is text that says Arms of the Marathas from Lord Egerton's Indian Armour. As we observed earlier, forts were initially the mainstay of Maratha power. Shivaji controlled and built a considerable number of forts as they were essential to strategically control important routes and shelter the army when engaging in guerrilla warfare. Ramachandrapant Amatya, the finance minister of Shivaji, in his work Agyanapatra or the Royal Edict, explains, quote, forts are the core of the state. In their absence, the land gets devastated in the face of an invasion. Therefore, all the former kings secured the country by building forts. This kingdom, that is the Maratha kingdom, was created by the late great master Shivaji from forts alone. A great enemy like Aurangzeb invaded this kingdom, conquered great empires like Bijapur and Bhaganagar, but it was due to forts that the Maratha state survived despite decades of onslaught. Unquote. Maritime supremacy. As we understood, Shivaji created a navy to secure the west coast. In the 18th century, Kanhoji Angre guided the Marathas to victory in many naval battles thanks to a clever use of geography and battle tactics, despite the Maratha ships not being as technologically advanced as the European ones. At the time, the main strength of Europeans in India was their navies. They forced Indians to purchase their naval trade passes, or cartas in Portuguese, at a price. Any ship without a pass was confiscated. The Marathas challenged this practice and started demanding passes from the Europeans themselves, who showed their frustration by labeling Kanhoji Angre a pirate. Page 76. At the top of the page, a picture is given. This is figure 3.17 and it is labeled Maratha ships attacking English ships. Don't miss out. In 1665, 4 ships from Shivaji's fleet reached Muscat, the capital of Oman. The ruler there captured them and arrested the men on board. He also prepared a few ships to attack Shivaji's coastal possessions. But on hearing that Shivaji's navy contained more than 100 ships, he retreated inside the harbor with his ships. Judicial system. The Marathas had an efficient judicial system, remarkable for its moderation in using capital punishment or the death penalty. The Panchayat, not to be confused with the current day Panchayat, a governmental body, was actually a local gathering of officials and prominent men, and the main body that delivered justice. An appeal could be made to a Maratha chief in case of an unsatisfactory verdict. Additionally, in various prominent towns such as Pune, Indore, etc., the Kotwal or the police was also deployed to ensure law and order within the city. Page 77. Trade networks. Shivaji encouraged trade and actively participated in maritime foreign trade himself. He and his officials had their own ships, which they regularly sent to ports as far away as Mocha in Yemen, Muscat in Oman, and Malacca in Malaysia. Some of these ships carried cargo like gold, textiles, etc. Roads were constructed and maintained. In places such as Odisha in the 18th century, a network of ferries was maintained for riverine transport. Bridges were built over rivers and small streams. Cultural revival. The Marathas contributed substantially to India's cultural developments. Shivaji's vision of Swarajya is evident in his seal, which carried a Sanskrit inscription, a notable departure from the prevalent Persian seals. This seal, that is authority of Shivaji, the son of Shahji, waxing like the new moon, revered by the world, reigns for the welfare of the people. At the right hand side of the page, a picture is given. This is figure 3.18. It is a picture of Shivaji's seal that has just been described. Shivaji also commissioned a treatise called Rajya Vyavahara Kosha with the aim of promoting the Marathi language. It provided Sanskrit equivalents for the prevalent Persian words used in diplomatic exchanges, as a result of which the percentage of foreign loan words in Maratha diplomacy decreased considerably. Shivaji was a devout Hindu who respected other religions while upholding his own. His saffron colored flag was adopted by all Marathas. He rebuilt desecrated temples, promoted Sanskrit and Marathi literature, religious institutions, and traditional arts. But perhaps he contributed most to the revival of ancient Indian culture and values by giving people a demonstration that mighty kingdoms and empires could be defeated and the Marathas could maintain, expand, and administer an empire of their own. Page 78. The mighty Maratha women. At the top of the page, in the left hand corner, a picture is given. This is figure 3.19 and it is labeled Tarabai in Battle. It is a painting by M.V. Dhurandhar. Tarabai was a fearless Maratha warrior queen who ruled in the early 18th century after the death of her husband, Raja Ram. Realizing that with the presence of Aurangzeb and the Mughal army in the Deccan, North India was unprotected, she organized large Maratha armies and sent them to invade Mughal territories in the north. In that sense, she was the architect of the northward Maratha expansion. Her sense of military strategy and her tenacity outsmarted the Mughal Empire and preserved Maratha independence during a critical period. In the middle of the page, in the right-hand corner, a picture is given, and this is figure 3.20. It is labeled as a postage stamp commemorating Ahilyabai Holkar. Ahilyabai Holkar was a scion of the Holkar dynasty, one of the chief families instrumental for the Maratha expansion in North India. During the 18th century, this dynasty ruled a kingdom of considerable extent in central India around present-day Indore. Even after losing her husband and son, she bravely governed the state for 30 years, administering it wisely while caring for the common people. Ahilyabai was a devout person who built and restored hundreds of temples, ghats, wells, and roads throughout India, from Kedarnath in the north to Rameswaram in the south. Most famously, she rebuilt the Kashi Vishwanath temple in Varanasi that had been destroyed by Aurangzeb and the Somnath temple in Gujarat that had been destroyed by Mahmud of Ghazni. Ahilya Bai Holkar is also credited with promoting the Maheshwar weaving industry in Madhya Pradesh, revitalizing traditional handloom crafts that continue to thrive today. Page 79. Don't miss out. The Modi script, a cursive form of Devanagari, was the main script used by Marathas for their correspondence. On top of the page, in the right hand corner, a picture is given. This is figure 3.21 and it is labeled as a sample of Chhatrapati Shahu Maharaj's handwriting in the Modi script. Shivaji's example continued to inspire his successors. For instance, the Bhonsles of Nagpur emerged as the enthusiastic supporters of local culture and tradition, and the worship of the deity Jagannath at Puri in Odisha, which was often interrupted during the Mughal rule, was revived with the support of the Marathas. But perhaps the most impressive contribution came from a few remarkable Maratha women. Let us hear about two of them. Observe facing page. In focus, Tanjavur. Let us turn southward to witness another example of cultural contribution. Ekoji, the half brother of Shivaji, conquered the Tanjavur region in present day Tamil Nadu in the late 17th century, marking the beginning of Maratha rule in the area. The Tanjavur Marathas especially helped create a syncretic culture that was rich and full of innovation. They were great patrons of the arts, and many of the rulers themselves were poets and dramatists. At the bottom of the page, a picture is given. This is figure 3.22, and it is a traditional Tanjavur style painting featuring delicate gold foil work that lends it a rich, radiant appearance. This style flourished under the patronage of the Marathas. Page 80. Let's explore. Have you heard of the dance form Bharatanatyam? Did you know that this dance form has a deep connection with the Marathas? Can you find out what this connection was? Of all the Tanjavur Maratha rulers, the contributions of Sarfoji too are most notable. He was well versed in many Indian and European languages and wrote a Marathi play named Devendra Kuravanji, where he describes world geography in detail as was known at the time. Sarfoji patronized many talented musicians, and it was during his time that modern Carnatic music took shape, as did the early stages of the famous classical dance form of Bharatanatyam. In the middle of the page, a picture is given. This is figure 3.23, and it is labeled as the Marathi inscription on the wall of the Brihadiswara temple wall, recording the history of the Bhonsle family. Interested in medicine and established the Dhanvantari Mahal, a center of medicine that offered free treatment of diseases using both Indian and Western medicine. He also started a printing press, the first such example in India by a native ruler. He got the history of the Bhonsle family inscribed on the walls of the Brihadiswara temple at Tanjavur, which is one of the largest single inscriptions in India, a record for posterity. Page 81. The cultural environment of Tanjavur was multilingual, with a mix of many influences: the local Tamil culture, the Telugu culture of the former rulers, and the current rulers' Marathi culture interacted with each other freely. The Maratha legacy. The Maratha rule challenged Mughal dominance and established the largest Indian empire before the British took over the subcontinent, controlling much of central and northern India. They set up a new way of governing with an efficient administration and also revived the local Hindu traditions without religious discrimination. Their brave fight against oppressive rule and foreign power was driven by the fiery ideal of Swarajya. Later, it inspired many Indians to believe they could govern themselves, planting the early seeds for India's freedom movement. Before we move on, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj founded the Maratha kingdom in the 17th century. Its decades long resistance to Mughal power and the experience gained from this helped in its pan Indian expansion in the 18th century. The British captured India effectively from the Marathas more than from any other Indian power. Forts were the core of Maratha state. The Marathas controlled hundreds of forts, thus strategically strengthening their control over the region. Their formidable navy resisted European naval supremacy for quite some time despite lack of access to the latest technology of the time. The Marathas inspired a new cultural confidence amongst Indians in various regions, thus contributing to the cultural revival and innovation. Page 82. Questions and activities. Question 1. Analyze how geography, particularly mountains and coastlines, guided Maratha military strategy and state formation. 2. Imagine you are creating a short biography of a Maratha leader for younger students. Choose one personality: Kanhoji Angre, Bajirao I, Mahatji Shinde, Ahilyabai Holkar, or Tarabai, and write 3 to 4 paragraphs highlighting what makes them inspirational. Include at least one challenge they overcame. 3. If you could visit one Maratha fort today, such as Raigad, Sindhudurg, Jinji, or Pratapgarh, which would you choose and why? Research its history, architecture, and strategic importance. Present your findings as a digital presentation or a poster in class. 4. The chapter states the British took India from the Marathas more than from the Mughals or any other power. What do you think this means? What evidence from the chapter supports this idea? 5. Compare how Shivaji and later Marathas treated religious places and people of different faiths. What evidence from the chapter shows their approach to religious diversity? 6. The chapter describes how forts were the core of the state for Marathas. Why were they so important? How did they help the Marathas survive against larger enemies? 7. You have been appointed as a chief designer for Maratha coins. Design a coin that represents Maratha achievements and values. Explain the symbols you chose. 8. After this introduction to the Maratha period, what do you think was their most important contribution to Indian history? Write a paragraph supporting your opinion with examples from the chapter. Then share and discuss your ideas with classmates. This chapter ends here.
Exploring Society, India and Beyond, Grade 8. You were just listening to this audiobook. Narration Divya Gupta. Sound recordist Amarjeet. Production assistants Vineet Kumar Sharma. Directed and produced by Vimlesh Chaudhary. This audiobook is brought to you by CIET NCERT, New Delhi, India.